Is this a whole wash operation where you're getting cups, you're spitting sunflower seed shells into them, you're cleaning them, and then you're reselling them?
Correct. And I don't actually like sunflower seeds much out of that context. So then I usually have like 3/4 of a bag left over of sunflower seeds. Like a week later, like, what am I doing with these? And then I throw them away.
I'm just gonna say, like, it seems like, well, one, this was like an not old timey. I'm sure there are people still do it. You know, chewing tobacco and then you're spitting it into a coffee cup you just keep in your car or whatever. But there's a decent amount of time you're not looking at the road when you're doing the spitting, right?
I'm not looking at the road anyway because I'm texting. But I don't know. It's not that long. I don't think so.
Does that actually keep you awake? Like, why not just get something you can drink, like coffee that has caffeine in it?
Yeah, mornings I usually will do that. That'll just keep me awake. I don't know. It's just that I don't do it a lot. Every now and again. It's usually nighttime driving. I used to smoke, so that would do it too. But then you end up just smoking a whole pack of cigarettes in an hour to stay awake, which might not be the best choice.
I always wonder, like, if someone's smoking in their car, how they know they have not started a fire, like with ashes going out the window.
They don't.
This is Getting to Market. If you couldn't tell from whatever that very long interlude was, a podcast where the jobs are real, but your roles are negotiable. John, you and I had the good fortune of spending 3 days in a room. We were pretty much in that room for, I don't know, like 9 hours at a time.
Yeah.
Much was accomplished. I guess none of it we can really talk on this podcast, and also nobody would care. But it was good seeing you. And
good.
I know I roast you a little bit on this podcast, but can I pay you a compliment?
Sure.
It was really cool to see you, like, in your element doing like good PM work in the context of what we were doing. It was like a little bit of like, oh, this is why my buddy's so good at this. Like, the project that we're working on, I mean, nobody on this podcast will care anyways, but we can't go into detail about it. But you are kind of passionate, and it is something that you're enjoying working on. And I think it shows in both how you're able to articulate, like, the value of this, both internally and externally, and kind of this sort of evangelist role you've taken internally to talk about this thing.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see.
Thanks.
I was proud of you watching you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun. I've yet to find a way to be as efficient and effective at communicating and hashing out ideas and talking through stuff remotely as well as I have been in person. And so just being together for those things, it's a little bit of, best of all the worlds where, we have the flexibility to do some of this stuff and then being together, some of those things that we were hashing out and had to go through would have taken forever. If not in person. So I'm not willing to say return to office is good necessarily, but I do miss a lot of that. I do appreciate that, particularly like just building relationship and that sort of stuff. But then, it was fun to do. We're doing some cool stuff. This is the understatement of the century, but building cool stuff is fun. Like that is all there is to it. And we had a good time. So it was good to hash out.
I mean, on the return to office thing, you do seem a little bit like the reason why offices have doors. People are like, oh, John's walking this direction. I'm just going to go ahead and shut this door.
All right. That's not why we're here. As you mentioned, like everything else is, when a lot is changing, things are up in the air, things shifting all the time. It got me thinking the other day, like in the midst of that, there's a whole lot of stuff you can talk about with change management and all that sort of stuff. But a part of that is just knowing what's the same. Wanted to find out as you're kind of watching what's happening in PMM, watching what's happening with AI, let alone org changes and let alone anything, new products and that sort of stuff. What are the steady Eddie things, the things that are consistent that you always know if I do these, that's at least, 60% of the job or what?
I guess I'm curious, when you brought this conversation, like the first thing I thought about is, one, it's a rough job market. And so is the framing of this, how do I maintain my value at an organization with all the change that's happening? Am I keeping value by doing new things? Is it innovation, or is it really committing to some of the stuff that these roles have kind of been committed to for a long time? Was that part of how you were thinking about this, or you're thinking more of like, how do you stay grounded around in an environment where there's a lot of change?
That's funny because none of those are what I had in mind, which is just kind of funny. Everyone's got different perspectives. I hadn't thought through, those feel like applications. When I thought through is like, and I think we had when we were talking about skills, but what are the things if I just get better at this will always serve me well and will always be good at what, like this is the stuff that's always consistent, always good. And there's the dumb, if you have a dollar, how would you spend it? But
I used that phrase this week, John, I think to very good effect. So
well,
I don't
that's to
know.
others to judge. You did use it. That part is true.
Well, I think a lot is changing. I'm curious. We've talked about this a little bit, but there is an element to both of these roles where they are different at different orgs, and there's different doctrines and different approaches. We had an episode recently we talked about org size, and
Yeah.
you can have a PMM that's dedicated to a very specific part of one product, but there are multiple PMs working on that product versus one PM owns kind of the full product. That kind of skill specialization seems to play some role in that, right? Like if you were trying to kind of stay relevant in a generalist PM role, what would you try to commit to? And
The stuff that was in my mind, like the basics. I don't know if our current situation is why it's on my mind, but delivering fast and listening well are at least principles. I put them under principles just in my own thinking of like these are things that if I'm listening well, and that implies you got to have an audience to listen to, and you're talking to customers and some of those product things. But reflective listening, hey, I heard you say this. Is this what you meant? Is this how you use this? Are these the ways that you would apply? This is how I watched you use the tool. I think it's because of this. Is that why? Those sorts of questions are always going to be helpful.
which is an element of curiosity, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. That's a
that's
good way to think
yeah.
about it. Yeah, that part is good. Another one, just kind of in the overall principles of product management, is this idea of fast iteration and just being able to not just find and move quickly, or add that with the curiosity rather, but like move quickly in the right direction and just go, 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 go. Those things are always going to be helpful. It can be damaging, and we can talk about where moving too fast is bad. But being willing to move quickly without all the information, without knowing everything, and just go and try and willing to experiment and having that curiosity are always going to be helpful skills, or these things that I should write down and keep in my mind all the time.
One of the things you hinted at there was too, it's like going fast, but it's with what groups of people, and so there's an
Hmm.
element of got to bring all of these people to this same goal, and the faster you can get to that goal the better. And so being good at that too, specifically not just going fast but bringing other people along for a fast ride, I think
Yeah.
is a really good skill to have. It came up in the meetings you and I had this week, which is we have a lot of people with a lot of different points of view, but not all of those points of view necessarily track to the same goal or path. And
Hmm.
what can we bring to those conversations that's persuasive to those people in a way that's meaningful enough for them to kind of come around to the same thing that the other folks in the group are thinking about. You talked about this. This is funny. It's a kind of funny thing because it almost seems like not unintuitive for you, but it really makes you mad when people only want to stick to their lane and that is their only scope of interest. And
Yes.
it does not go any broader than that. Can
Yes.
you go into why that, I'm just going to say it, like infuriates you because it seems to really get under your
It
skin.
boils my blood for sure. It feels dismissive to the end state, and it's like I don't even care where we're going. I'm just going to do it. There's always like a bare minimum effort side to that where you're like, I don't even care. I'm just right here. Oh, you're going there? Well, it's not my thing. Maybe the positive way of why that infuriates me is it doesn't get anybody anywhere. Like that's not positive. It's just like it feels like it's almost always indicative of just not thinking about whatever the real goal is. Like, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to get to? I don't know.
Give
I'm
me an
only
example.
here. I have a really good example of this, working really positively. So this week we're going through doing all of our beta stuff. So we're doing all these mock-ups, building out a better beta program, all kinds of things, using a bunch of tools that we have. It's really exciting. So I thought I should have a custom URL for this. So I wrote an email and said, hey, team, this is what I'm trying to do. I need to get a URL that's not something that I personally own so that I can connect it up to this tool so that I can share it out with users. And what the IT person who helped me out with did, they said, bought it, done. What's the tool you need? I bet we need to do this with, DNS in this example. That's internally. Tell me where the tool is. Do I have access to that so I can get it? And so what they communicated without saying explicitly is, I'm working with you toward that end state. I'm working toward the end goal of you want to get this website up. You want to get this connected to that thing. I bet I own this, this, and this. I bet I can get you done. And I was wrong about an assumption I made because of how much this infuriates me and just experiences, not with this team in particular. But I thought, I'm going to buy this because the quickest way to get this done is for me to buy it, do this other stuff, and deal with it. And like, kudos
Personally, you
personally,
were gonna swipe your card. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
100%. Like, it is worth $18 a year to me to not deal with this. It makes me that angry. Like, that's kind of what
Yeah,
I'm saying. And yeah, this person on our team crushed it. Like, they got it done. They did it. So they could have said, yep, domain's bought. Thanks. Close the ticket. Game over. That leaves it to me. Okay, now I got to figure out how I get this up, and that could very
yeah.
well be 15 emails with different. Oh, infosec's involved. Like, it could just get crazy. And nope, they knew they had the domain experience and stuff, and done and done. So it's that simple example could have broken down and taken forever,
Yeah.
but it didn't, and it was really really good. So that
Which I think also then ties back to curiosity, right? Like I think curiosity is one of those core skills that like no matter what else is going around you, I guess the saying is curiosity kills the cat. But I think in a work environment, curiosity by and large will pay off for you, as long as how you're doing it isn't disruptive to other people and
oh
you're just
right
kind of being a pain in the ass.
yeah yeah
What I was going to kind of tie the swim lane thing into, and I was trying to think of a way. There are people, I think I can say this without it being cringeworthy. There are people that I've worked with, I'm sure you've worked with, that are good at the whatever 4D game of chess,
sure
right? And I was thinking, like, what is a way to describe this in a way that isn't like super pretentious or also like dumb? I think I've come to it. So
ooh
I think if I was trying to describe 4D chess at like in a work context for what you and I do is taking an interest in how things that appear to bear no relevance to what you're doing or trying to do connect back to what you're trying to do in a way that would be meaningful. So you're looking at things in like a layer perspective where you have your swim lane, but you also think like the currents that are being generated in this other swim lane 2 rows over could actually, if you're thinking about the people that they're working with and what they're trying to do and what their revenue goal is or
sure
whatever, can tie back into making what you're trying to do faster. And I think that again, like it ties back to curiosity. Like you are looking outside of just your space at what other people are doing, what they want and what they're trying to do, and bringing it back into how can that help me do what I'm trying to do,
mm-hmm.
whether it's by replicating their methods, whether it's by working with them directly. And that to me maybe is like a definition of 4D chess that isn't painful. 4D chess to me is going outside of just what is in your interest and letting your curiosity kind of guide you. And I think it can be really helpful to also just understand like what are other parts of your organization doing. They might not be directly connected to you,
yeah
but you having a better understanding of that rarely hurts you. The people that I've seen that are really good at that 4D chess game, and we have a guest coming in a couple weeks that we'll hopefully get to talk to about this. They have that like sense. It's kind of like a sixth sense where they're like this thing that seems like a butterfly flapping its wings in Japan is actually going to cause this other thing. And I'm kind of making these connections and I'm going to do it in a way that actually brings value back to what I'm trying to do.
there's like a curiosity and a positive outcome way too. That's a weird way to say it, but
Yeah.
just like there's being
Curious.
curious for the sake of telling someone why it won't work, but then curious to like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's explore this, kind of figure it out. As you're talking through, I was thinking like, well, how do you demonstrate that? Because if someone in an interview demonstrates that to me, 100% like conversation over. Can you start on Monday? It's almost that level of importance to me where, there's you can teach aptitude, attitude, not aptitude. And that feels like it's a core part of that attitude.
Yeah, and I think in an interview, one of the ways you could show it, if you're a product marketer in particular, would be like I was looking at this one piece of data, and it was abnormal enough that I kept kind of like picking at it.
Yeah.
And as I got a layer deeper and a layer deeper, I then realized it was connected to this market segment and we weren't doing as well converting this market segment. And because of that, then it led me to have a conversation with the sales team on what type of assets they might need to answer this objection because we were actually seeing more of this than we were realizing. Like that would be a good way, I think, to prove out sort of how your curiosity ties into you being better at your job and helping other parts of the org.
As I was just like thinking through what's steady for me, I got to like technology, and then I was like, well, that's actually not steady at all. But the interesting part
Mm.
was that it didn't matter. Like it was helpful to think about like, well, the tech is always going to change. That stuff is going to be there. And then it put AI in that bucket for me of like,
Oh,
well, these things are going to change, but the things that won't change, I just get better at and become more helpful. And so even in that example of like, if you're just kind of picking at that data thing, being able to proactively collect a bunch of data to put it together to share something, you may not be able to find the time so easily to go after and kind of explore that curiosity. Well, now the technology, like you can get that data, you can put a bunch of stuff together, you can ETL pretty straightforward in a really easy way and build stuff without really needing to do a whole lot. It's almost like kind of changes what the shifts in technology are into an asset more than a liability. Where you're like, I'm not worried about my job as much if my job is stay curious, be focused on these things, see what I can do to deliver fast. I like your 4D chess definition. That's pretty good.
When I think about how you were talking about technology, the thing that came up for me was like the technology changes, but by and large for us, if technology changes, it should be another source of data. And then it's how are we then using whatever data this technology is capturing or creating to kind of change or affect our decision making.
Sure.
And so I think, we internally use a call recording tool. That call recording tool has a search function. So it's recording all these calls and you can like aggregate them. You can search through it. You can find trends and that sort of thing. There is that capability, but like who in the org is really proving out that they know how to take that data and turn it into something meaningful. And I think that's a thing where like, if I'm being honest, like nobody quite yet has figured out exactly the recipe for taking those insights that they're getting and turning it into a thing that like makes us better at selling or retaining a customer or whatever. And so I think it's when I think of like how technology changes, it's like how does the technology change affect the data that you're able to collect, analyze, and then affect kind of the decisions on the back end.
Do you put a lot of weight in the like Myers-Briggs, those personality stuff and the colors?
Not a ton. I had the, I don't know, misfortune of being a psychology double major
Oh,
in
that's right.
college.
You know things about
And
this.
there's a lot of discrediting that's been done around how those things tie into like actual personalities and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
However, okay, I have I've done these tests before at various places I've worked at. I basically always land in the same place, which maybe suggests some like level of relevance for how well they're like tracking these things, or how well they're accurate, how accurate they are maybe. And when I show them to my wife, she's like, "Oh yeah, this is like this is pretty accurate." I have seen it be a little helpful, right? Where
Yeah.
it is fairly accurate for a person in terms of how they prefer to work, and you can then kind of have a better idea of joining together how you work with how they work.
Yeah.
I tend to be in whatever like the data analysis one is, where I like to have data before I make a decision. Where are you?
Well, this is kind of where I was going with it. It's like it's a little bit funny. This isn't necessarily my lesson learned, but I learned this week. I was like, I should look at those and find out what the definitions are. Everyone's perception of me is very, very different than what the
Really?
robot says. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, almost flip flopped, like almost 100% opposite. And I think a part of that is I don't know if I've just leaned into. Would you say I'm a very data and analytical driven person?
Yes.
I'm not, according to the robot.
Huh.
This part, like I am much more willing to to start moving and to build direction without the data. Far more risk tolerant, although that's less so in my personal life. And then very community, very like together focused, which probably isn't all that surprising. But I think I lean to the data because I just don't want to fight with opinions. And so I'll
Hmm.
just like make a decision and kind of go. But when I got to bring everybody along, I'll go to the data and just like, well, I don't know. It's kind of what the numbers say. And so it's almost like the tools round me out a little bit more, which might be a good thing.
I thought you were gonna say that you scored
Mhm.
badly for, or you scored well on data, but people don't think of you as data driven.
Uh,
That's what I thought you were
no.
gonna say.
Well, there's a similar one too. This is like a now totally different topic, but called the five love languages, and it's like a relationship
Oh
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot how into like pseudoscience stuff you're
Yeah,
into. Yeah.
big time into pseudoscience thing.
Have you shown people your Miss Cleo tattoo?
Yeah, yeah.
You do have on your back. I mean, a full like 12 by 18
Rubbing the crystal
Miss
ball.
Cleo.
There's a bar in Appleton, Wisconsin, where I lived called Cleo's, and I don't think you can come out of that place sober. Like it is just impossible. You have one drink and you are having a day.
They should do a bar where you have a magic 8 ball that determines your price. Like you shake it, and then it's
Oh,
like outlook not so good, and then you have to pay like $20 or whatever. And if
that's
it's
so
like
good.
whatever, wouldn't that be great? My lesson learned actually will stay on the drinking theme. There was a study that came out recently. I guess Nat Geo published the article, but it was basically saying that chimpanzees consume the equivalent of 2.5 human alcoholic drinks per day. Like they don't consume as much like volume because they're smaller by weight. But the equivalent is like if a human was drinking 2.5 alcoholic drinks.
Where do they get it?
Because of all the fruit. They like ripe fruit, and the ripe fruit that's on the ground has started to ferment, and they will, I guess, apparently kind of like prioritize the stuff that's like more fermented. So on average, they're they're seeking out a little bit of a buzz, I guess, from the food that they eat.
Wait, what did they want first? Is it like they wanted food, so they started eating it, and then they got hooked on the alcohol, so they kept on eating that, and then only that?
I don't think they were time traveling to ask chimpanzees why they started doing this, but I guess the they took a DeLorean. This is how the study happened. They built a DeLorean. They got a flux capacitor onto the DeLorean. Went back. First thing, not to see dinosaurs or anything, or witness any major human history events. Was just to see why chimpanzees started to eat the fermented fruit. No, but I don't know. And apparently, like there are certain fruits, like dates or something, that generate a little more alcohol or whatever.
Oh, right.
It's kind of interesting. Like there is some sort of gravitation, I think, to what I was curious. I don't think the article really got into was there's sociological studies that suggest that like alcohol's contributed to kind of like community and sort of the ability for humans to like come together as communities and that sort of thing, and that lubricity effect socially. And so I wonder if that's maybe part of the component.
Interesting.
To that. Yeah.
I've never heard that word before. Lubricity?
Yeah. I mean, get a dictionary or Google it.
Right.
What is your lesson learned other than
lubricity? I'm going to, any listener, if you know lubricity, say something. Actually, tell us in the comments if you know lubricity. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not the minority group here that doesn't know the word lubricity. I think you might be in your own little. I'm glad for your journalism degree. The lesson that I learned is maybe related to drunken animals. But did you know that it's illegal? It's a felony, a federal offense to lay hands on a referee, a sports referee, in any age group. So the context that this is brought up in is like referees in kids games, like youth sports. It's a felony because parents have become so crazy yelling at refs for bad calls or for whatever that you can actually get a felony for doing that.
I remember my sister played fairly competitive soccer, and so I think that helped amp up kind of the parental expectations on both sides.
Oh, because there's competitive.
There was some game, and so she was probably like in high school at this time, and there was some game where like the other coach and assistant coach or a parent got so mad at the referee that like they were just like shouting at him as he was like walking, trying to like get to his car and stuff. And I just remember like having to, I mean, I did kind of yell at them to leave him alone, but it was just like, you need to like step off.
Yeah.
Like,
get over it.
This is a guy who's getting paid like $12 an hour. Right. I mean, that's basically volunteer work, right? Like, I'm not trying to be diminutive about that, but that's so little money in a part-time role.
Yeah, they're not there for the money.
They're not there for the money. They can't be. But yeah, I remember because like I don't know, this guy might have been willing to fight over me telling him to shut up and leave the guy alone.
Yeah, then you have to tell your kids, the one fight Dad got in is because he yelled at some people yelling at a ref, and yelling at a ref wasn't enough. They had to come beat me up too.
This show comes out every Tuesday. If you enjoy the not insights, detours, and kind of general unhelpfulness,
the
of
scenic
what
route
we provide
to
in this
potential helpfulness. That's what we'll call it.
You can find us on wherever you get your podcasts. I guess you're listening to this, so you figured out some way to. We're also on YouTube at YouTube/GetIntoMarketPod. You can email us at GetIntoMarketPod, no G. Well, there's a G at the beginning. GetIntoMarketPod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear feedback. Tell John he's wrong about lubricity. People know what that word means. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
See you, bud.